Now, a petition calling for a general election has hit over 2 million signatures. The petition was created by Michael Westwood, which says, "I would like there to be another general election. I believe the current Labour government have gone back on their promise they laid out to the last election." And I find the language of this quite funny. It's like, I would like there to be an election. Oh, would you? It's funny. Now, 2 million is a lot of people, but it's not that surprising given the fact that big accounts, GB News pundits, actor Michael Caine, and even Elon Musk has shared it. Now, I do find this sort of thing a little bit cringe. I mean, when the left did it, I cringed too. And now those on the right are doing the same thing. Whether we like it or not, and I certainly don't, but over 9 million people voted for this government. So what is the point in a petition? Now, they claim it's because the government lied. Have these people just recently joined the political arena? Every party lies. The difference is those of us on the left call it out regardless of which party, whereas this seems to me as simply partisan hacks, angry that they seem to think that this centre-right corporatist party is somehow really, really left-wing. Now, having said that, it is undeniable that Starmer and the Labour Party are incredibly unpopular. Lewis, as I said earlier, they seem to have pissed off everyone. This petition will obviously make no difference. However, it is a sign of discontent with a government that is literally only a few months old.
Yeah, obviously, people have the right to make a petition on whatever they want. But what frustrates me, this goes out to like everyone who does this, is like just like the online warriors, the online activists. Like
Yeah.
a lot of these people who think they've done something by signing this petition. And again, petitions are helpful, but not in this context. It's just ridiculous. And what frustrates me is that obviously as you said, it's like the GB News pundits, it's Nigel Farage, it's Reform voters and the Reform Party. I spend a lot of time on TikTok Live, way too much, and everybody who's been promoting this, which I've seen dozens of lives with hundreds of viewers, it's all like the Reform voters. And what's really funny about this is that these are the people who, the top issues that they care about are like, immigration. They say they care about the NHS. And, if they actually want to organize anything, the things that they need to be focusing on is maybe, if you want to prevent, future immigration, maybe you should be out organizing against the war that's currently going on in the Middle East, right? We know from the Iraq war that the destabilization of the Middle East led to immigration, right? Lots of asylum seekers, lots of refugees, lots of displacement. If I'm a Reform voter, and I feel like I'm almost trying to trick them into becoming left, if I'm a Reform voter, and you know that it's a big driver of immigration, then I would be out protesting in the streets right now to stop the wars. On top of that, how many of these people who signed that petition, ever marched for nurses' pay, for teachers' pay? Most of these people have never organized anything in their life, but they feel like they've somehow achieved something, that this is some breakthrough moment because they've signed a petition.
Musk is one of those who shared it, and he said that this government is tyrannical, right? And you mentioned how many of these people go out and strike or support strikers. Well, we know that Elon Musk was bragging to Donald Trump on his call, saying how he was clamping down on unions, and that was a good thing. So there is no crossover between those who had a lot of these people signing this petition than those that actually care about the issues. And in terms of immigration, well, what I find quite funny is that Labour have capitulated to the right on these policies. They've been very hawkish. They've been extremely, they've been going after asylum seekers, stopping the boats, and yet these people are still not happy, which shows this political opportunism.
Do you know who they shouldn't be happy with, Curtis? Because I got the data on this actually last week for a video that I was doing. In terms of like people who are actually doing their job. Now, I don't agree with many of the things that Labour are doing, but in terms of people actually doing their job and people they should be angry at, I checked how many times the Reform Party have actually been in Parliament. Now, I don't have the exact data of like the time, but what I do have is like the amount of votes that they do. So big shout out to the Green Party. But the Green Party, for example, there's been about 45 opportunities to vote in Parliament since these people got elected. And the Green Party, have voted almost on every single one of them. One MP 40 times, another MP 37, Carla 40, Ellie Chowns 40. The Reform Party. Nigel Farage has voted in Parliament 14 times. A lot of the votes that have taken place have been during his show, because he'd rather be earning £100,000 a month than actually being in Parliament, actually trying to affect change, debate, all that type of stuff. Lee Anderson, 27, Richard Tice, 27, Rupert Lowe, 24, and James Murdoch, 25. Where are the Reform Party? Because it's their voters right now who are trying to push these petitions, but they're not even paying attention to the MPs that they like, to the party that they like, because they're not spending as much time in Parliament as most other MPs are. So where are they and what are they doing? They're not obviously working on the behalf of their constituents, for the people, the apparent 100,000 people who pay a monthly fee to Reform. Why is nobody paying attention to that?
And Farage says he was too scared to go to his constituency. He said it's a security issue, but then he's on a march for farmers with cameras everywhere and no security there. It's almost as if he was making an excuse because he doesn't want to do his job. He's not there to do that. He's not there to represent the people. If there's any Reform people watching, we get some, and you're all welcome, by the way. What me and Lewis want to tell you is they do not care about these issues, and they don't care about you. I mean, they're a party, rich people, a bunch of rich people, ex-Tories. Nigel Farage, ex-Tory city banker. Do you think he cares about you? No, he doesn't.
Richard Tice, private school. Nigel Farage, private school. Richard, Rupert, and Nigel are all millionaires. It's frustrating because they won't even look inwards before they look outwards. I get the discontent with Labour. People can argue about how they've broken their promises from the manifesto, but again, this is almost going to sound like I'm defending them, which I hate, is that the true measure of what they're going to be able to achieve isn't going to be visible for years, right? In terms of the moves that they make on who they're going to tax, we can criticize that, but the full, we need to give them their 4 or 5 years to actually see what kind of job that they do. And just doing distraction techniques on, signing a petition for 2 million people to sign a petition, it's just useless. It's annoying. We've got scandals in the Church of England. We've got so many things going on in this country right now that deserve more attention. But no, people are angry at the Labour government signing a petition. People are angry at a Boots advert. People are angry at a Jaguar advert. But nobody seems to be angry at the right things or doing anything about it.
Well, speaking of broken promises, in that petition, many of those who shared it have said Labour have lied. They went back on their promises. But I'm interested to know, which promises did they break? I mean, I seem to remember an election where Labour was saying, we're not really going to change much, and it's just going to be difficult decisions, and don't be too optimistic. I mean, the only thing you could point to is no tax rises, but they did say no tax rises on working people. And the recent announcement, which is an end to a tax break for inheritance tax over £1 million, isn't really going back on their word. So what do you think they're really angry about? I mean, they've capitulated to the right on so many issues. So this, to me, feels more vibes than policy, don't you think?
Oh, it's absolute vibes. Like, again, let's give Labour credit where it's due if we have to, right? With the farmers thing, not to go into it too deeply, but essentially they've just, made it a level playing field, that they're paying the same taxes everybody else should now in many ways. When it comes to private school taxes, why should people who are very rich and can afford to send their kids to private school not pay tax on what is a luxury item, right? In many ways, they have actually gone after the rich, not in the way that I wish they would. There's so many more things that they could do, but they have actually stuck to those promises, despite the fact that it had a lot of political pressure. They're very unpopular, but they've still done it. And I'm happy that they've done those things. And I hope that they stick to some other promises that they've gone ahead with, that were in their manifesto, but we will see. But again, it's frustrating that, a bunch of people who vote Reform, who are on this side, signing these petitions, who are probably, very working class people, actually don't see that Labour are, in fact, sticking to some of their promises, despite the fact that I have got a diary length of issues with the Labour Party. They don't seem to have deviated too much so far, really.
Yeah. I mean, I wish they lied more. I wish they did deviate. I wish they were radically left-wing, which I knew was never going to happen. And a lot of the most... the Starmerites, the Starmer supporters, like, don't worry, as soon as he gets elected, he'll be left-wing. No, he's not.
Oh, I was naive enough to think that for a very short while, but...
Well, I hope you learn your lesson.
I fucking well did.
I want to ask you about Elon Musk. I mean, he shared the petition. He called the UK tyrannical. He's clearly not content with buying or trying to buy the US election. He now wants to influence our politics. And I think it's crazy that, let's be honest, barely anyone is mentioning the power of billionaires in our politics. Obviously, we don't expect that to be brought up in mainstream media. I also would like you to tell me what is tyrannical about this Labour government. I mean, they certainly are authoritarian, believe me. But the way people like Musk make it out is that we're living in an extremely oppressive dictatorship. And that is always like a dog whistle to say it's socialism, it's communism, even though it's nothing to do with that. You tell me, are we living in an oppressive dictatorship?
Help, I feel oppressed. But no, it's ridiculous. They're not tyrannical at all. Obviously, the Tory party did some tyrannical shit, right? Like Suella Braverman with her protest bill. They changed a few of the laws which were definitely impeding on our human rights. But
I mean, you do have to say about, I mean, to be fair, when it comes to protests, Labour aren't good on it, and obviously like Just Stop Oil. Again, they're terrible in this issue, aren't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But in terms of like the spectrum, a Labour like the actually tyrannical in any way, it's ridiculous. Do you know who is tyrannical? The richest man in the world, who is completely unelected, who's now in a very powerful government position, or is about to be in the US. A guy who owns a social media platform that he uses at his will. A guy who's been recently reported as having secret conversations with the Russian president Vladimir Putin. A guy who has multiple satellites that help multiple militaries around the world conduct their military operations, including Ukraine. It's wild. If anything's tyrannical, it's Elon Musk. An unelected man has such a power, not just on the US, but the world, and nobody's ever voted for this guy. You know, just he's also a guy who, you know, in an interview, I think it was with Don Lemon, the one that he left and stormed out of, was like, oh, he's where he said, oh, how have I ever benefited from my whiteness? And this is a guy who obviously got brought up in a very rich family in apartheid South Africa. He is completely and utterly clueless. If anything is tyrannical, it is billionaires influencing politics and driving them to exactly where we are right now. And what's more frustrating about this is that it's the right who've always made these weird conspiracy theories about, you know, Bill Gates when he was the richest man in the world, because obviously a lot of those conspiracy theories come from the fact that he is known as the richest man in the world. And like almost all the things that the right for years have accused the left of doing when it's coming to, you know, the richest man in the world, controlling policy, controlling the media, having connections everywhere. That is who Elon Musk is now. So why aren't they pointing the finger at him?
Precisely. I mean, our producers said, you know, the police powers in criminalising asylum seekers and sentencing for activists, and then obviously that's what alluded to with Just Stop Oil. Labour are completely authoritarian. I said that before they were elected, and that's absolutely true. But obviously, when you hear people like Musk saying it's tyrannical, it is a dog whistle to say we're living under communism. And I do want to speak to, if there's anyone on the right, again, anyone who likes Elon Musk or whatever, I don't know how many there are of you watching, but I want to say to you, right, let's talk about freedom. Let's talk about that, okay? Because to tell you what, right-wing politicians, they say they care about freedom of speech. They say they think that they're against states' control or whatever, but they don't care when it's private control. They don't care when it's corporations and people like Musk that control everything in your life. I mean, think of the algorithms. Think of your mobile phone and all the targeted advertisement at you. A lot of decisions that you're made, that you think you make, is pushed from billionaires to make a profit. What about the corporate media that tells you what to think? So I find it incredibly ironic that you've got Musk and the right and all these people, cabal on the right, that they care about freedom. No, they don't. They absolutely do not. And they're fooling you. They're fooling you into believing that actually give up your rights to private capital. No, it's bullshit. You can be against authoritarianism. Now, me, I'm as a socialist, I'm consistent. I don't like state authoritarianism, and I don't like corporate control. It's not one or the other.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.